This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Bucs training camp got underway earlier this week in Milwaukee. It was the first chance to see the newly added Miles Turner in uniform. Milwaukee made a huge move to get the center from Indiana in the offseason. While the team is still figuring out exactly what that role will look like, Coach Doc Rivers says it will include more than he was asked to do with the Pacers.
His ability to stretch the floor obviously will stay the same. As three-point shooting, hopefully we can get him even more threes this year. I felt one of the things that Miles has really grown into, he punishes switches. You switch a guard on him, he's going to go and put his head under the basket and punish you for it. And I think that's something we want to use. His ability to block shots means maybe his ability on the other end to get offensive rebounds, which increase a couple of those is good.
Milwaukee's first exhibition game coming up October 6th. Turning the Badger basketball team, they're back on the floor for practice today, and that will include new assistant coach Brad Davison. He arrived back from Spain this week to take on a role as special assistant to the head coach. It was a job held by Kirk Penny the last 2 years. And the Brewers going to find out their opponent for the NLDS tonight as the Cubs and Padres face off in Game 3 of their wild card series. The winner will come to Milwaukee on Saturday for Game 1.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, Wisconsin putting the finishing touches on its game plan for Saturday's matchup with number 20 Michigan. Badgers have won 3 of the last 4 matchup between the two sides, but Michigan favored by 17.5. Kick is at 11, and the Packers are on their bye week. They'll return next week against Cincinnati. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
They need to reset, and we'll see if they're able to do that.
It's just frustrating because it didn't have to go this way. They were 2-0 and then were touchdown or greater favorites in their next 2 games, and now you're 2-1.
They should be 4-0 right now.
Yeah, or at
they
least 3-1. Right, like I could stomach 3-1. It's the NFL. Weird things happen, but 2-1 after that start feels really disappointing. I agree.
You can stomach 3-1. They should be 4-0 right now. They should absolutely have beaten the Cleveland Browns, who showed against the Detroit Lions on Sunday that they are still the Cleveland Browns, and they should have beaten. You put up 40 points on the road with that defense. I don't care how good Dak Prescott is. You would have told me going in they're putting up 40 points. I would have said they won by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
They should be 4-0, and they're 2-1-1.
Yeah, I don't even know because it was like watching a slow motion car crash in front of your face, where I'm just looking at the clock and I'm like, oh my God, there's going to be no time left.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
You know that voice. That's Ryan Wood, who joins us on Fridays thanks to Lacrosse Beer House. Now, you'll hear him on the show tomorrow night. I just recorded with him today, because I got to go to a wedding. Well, rehearsal dinner tomorrow night. However, the show that you'll hear tomorrow night is going to be pretty good. You'll hear that long conversation with Ryan Wood, and then you'll also hear a conversation that I recorded today with J.R. Radcliffe, the Journal Sentinel, to preview the NLDS. Now, unfortunately, because the Cubs game is just about to start here in about 10 minutes, J.R. and I weren't actually able to preview their opponent. We just very Brewers-centric, right? What's going on with the Brewers with roster decisions, and also like, what are they going to do at this position? What are they going to do with that position? So you're going to hear a conversation tomorrow night with JR, and you'll also hear our weekly conversation with Ryan Wood. But that comment was so good. I liked it so much. I had to play it a night early. It's like, Christmas Eve, you get real excited. It's like, I want to give you one gift on Christmas. It's just something the night before, even though Christmas morning is when most people do gifts. Maybe your family is a little bit different, but I wanted to play that one more time. And you know what? I'm going to play it one more time because that's some of the finest commentary I've heard on Wisconsin sports radio this week.
They need to reset, and we'll see if they're able to do that.
It's just frustrating because it didn't have to go this way. They were 2-0 and then were touchdown or greater favorites in their next 2 games, and now you're 2-1.
They should be 4-0 right now.
Yeah, or at least 3-1. Like I could stomach 3-1. It's the NFL. Weird things happen, but 2-1 after that start feels really disappointing. I agree.
You can stomach 3-1. They should be 4-0 right now.
Tell them,
They
Ryan.
should absolutely have beaten the Cleveland Browns, who showed against the Detroit Lions on Sunday that they are still the Cleveland Browns, and they should have beaten. You put up 40 points on the road with that defense. I don't care how good Dak Prescott is. You would have told me going in, they're putting up 40 points. I would have said they won by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
They should be 4-0, and they're 2-1-1.
I love that. That's strong, honest, cutting commentary from Ryan Wood for Packers News. You hear the rest of that conversation tomorrow, but I wanted to play that to begin tonight's show. This is the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. I hope you've had an excellent day. Cubs and Padres about to start in 10 minutes. How lucky are we? I wish it was earlier. So some of the series, well, not some, I guess Dodgers and Reds is done. I can't remember. No. We'll have 3. There's 3 games today. So everything shifted one window later, which is fine. I kind of liked the Cubs playing at 1 because I had something to watch all day and I had something to watch during the show. We'll be able to follow that game throughout the show, but it won't wrap up, I assume, unless it's the fastest baseball game imaginable. That'll wrap up after the show. So I do want to talk baseball and we'll chat Brewers throughout the show, but I want to begin with the Packers. And I want to begin with something we actually discussed on Bill's show earlier today. So a little bit of a behind the scenes, little inside baseball here. So about once, I would say every other week on average, Bill will text me normally around 9 o'clock, 9:30, saying something like, hey, Dan Orlovsky said something really good about the Packers, or he said something very interesting about the Packers on Get Up. Can you get the sound and we can play it and we can use it on the show, which I love, because if you listen to this show, I think the best shows are filled with audio. Here's a comment from this person, and here's what this person, I love mixing that into the show. I think it keeps the conversation going. I think it keeps the show moving really quickly. I like it. So I love when Bill is like, hey, I got this audio, I want to play it on the show. It's not really a problem. The funny part of that dynamic between Bill and I is Bill is normally getting ready for the show in his home studio, and he's got the TV on the wall in front of him. So he's always flipping through Get Up or Sports Center or First Take or the NFL Network, Good Morning Football, something like that. So Bill's always consuming. He's watching, he's listening, and he'll say, hey, Dan Orlovsky said something. Can you get the sound for the show? And I don't know this to be sure. I would like to think that Bill, when he texts me, thinks that, well, Grant is such a good producer. He is no doubt in a studio at work, and he's got 3 screens in front of him, and he's cutting sound, and he's talking again. He's in his zone. He's in the zone, right? Like, Grant, I'll hit up Grant. He'll get this in a heartbeat. I know it. He's on top of it. And normally when I get that text, it's more like I'm in my car in the parking lot or around the corner at Quick Trip or at Woodman's. There's a Woodman's right around the corner from the studio, and I'll often stop and get like something for lunch, or I'll get like this morning I had to stop and get K-Cups because I was out of coffee here in the studio. Normally when Bill texts me something like that, I am not in front of 3 monitors cutting audio and texting. Normally it's like I'm in my car and the food or whatever that I've just bought is like I'm putting it in my passenger seat, or like I'm digging for a quarter that fell in between my seat and my console, and I'm too poor to let the quarter go. So I'm like rifling through under my floor mat, and Bill's like, hey, can you get the Dan Orlovsky? Yep, Bill, I'm tapped in. I got it. So normally what I do is then jump on my computer, DVR Get Up, which replays the next hour, go back, dig it, find it. It's normally a whole process. But Bill will sometimes text me and say, hey, someone said something on a show this morning. Can you go get it? And this morning, it was a piece of audio. It's only about 40 seconds of Mike Greenberg and Taylor Luan. And who's the other guy who does Bussin' with the Boys? Why can't I remember his Compton, right? Will Compton, the Nebraska guy, the Bussin' with the Boys guys. And they were giving their hot takes on Get Up this morning. And this was the sound that Bill wanted me to get. And I actually think it's a great point of conversation. So I'm going to play it again. Here's this morning from Get Up, which again, I was at the ready in front of my computer screens, ready at the drop of a hat when Bill texted me.
We're looking for hot takes, and let's start in Green Bay.
Yes, you know what? I hate to do this. Love Coach LaFleur, friend of the show, but I got to cover this objectively. Packers are now on fraud watch after their last 2 performances.
Unfortunately, I think my friend Will Compton is correct. You go through a game last week, you're playing the Browns, you lose to the Browns. Micah Parsons is coming back to Dallas. You have an incredible record at AT&T Stadium. Supposed to be a boat race. We're talking about bloodbath over here on Thursday last week. You go in and you get a tie. Not only that, but as a game plan, you run zone, which is all Eberflus does against a quarterback that's all in camp.
ESPN Bet still has them as the favorites to win the division. You like Green Bay or Detroit in that division?
Right now, I like
Detroit.
Right now, I like
top
Detroit.
to bottom.
So there's a bunch of different pieces in that audio that we could extrapolate and then we could talk about individually. But I just kind of want to pass this question on to you, and I want to pass this topic on to you, and we can get into your phone calls here after our first break at 608-321-1670. Do you believe that? Do you think the Packers are now on fraud watch? Let me ask it more specifically. Are you watching extra critically, and are you paying extra close attention to the Cincinnati game as a game where the Packers absolutely need to show you something. Do they need to come out against a Bengals team that'll be quarterbacked by Jake Browning unless they make a switch? A team that basically no-showed against Denver on Monday Night Football. And I don't even think Denver played all that well. That game sucked. To the point where Troy Aikman talked about how the game sucked and how the product was bad. Like Cincinnati, and I don't know who they play this weekend. I don't have the games in front of me. And I guess I could check. I think it's kind of secondary. The point is Cincinnati should be a very beatable opponent, and you got them at home. Cincinnati is in Detroit this weekend. Or no, they're hosting the Lions at home, and then they'll travel to Lambeau to face the Packers after the bye. And it'll be the first Packers home game in a couple of weeks. And as we discussed on Bill's show earlier today with Mike, who works with Connection Ticket Services, and we were talking about, Brewers pricing dynamics and Badgers, and then we talked about Packers tickets as well. This is really the first honest to goodness home game the Packers have had since week 1 against the Lions, because Thursday night it was a home game, but Thursday night is a little trickier for some people. It's in the middle of a work week. So this is the first traditional Sunday home game the Packers have had in, I don't even know how much real time it's been, but 2 games on the road and then the bye. So at least 3 football weeks, but closer to a month, maybe even a little bit more real time. I lose track of the days. But Lambeau, Packers, Bengals, backup quarterback, a team that's reeling. This should be a game the Packers show really, really well, right? This is a game that theoretically you should have under the microscope, and this should be a bounce back spot. Are you viewing Packers-Bengals next Sunday as a little bit of a litmus test to prove whether or not this Packers team is the team we saw in the first 2 weeks, or more of the team that we saw in the second 2 weeks? And I would even take that a step farther and say the team that we saw last year, which is a team that had all the capability in the world to play really well and to perform really well, but they would get in their own way in ways that would hurt them against the best teams in football. They would make just enough mistakes and commit just enough penalties and drop just enough passes and err just enough on special teams to come up short against teams like Detroit, Minnesota, Philadelphia, right? And I think last year's team is part and parcel the team that's reappeared in the last 2 weeks, both against Cleveland and then on Sunday night against Dallas. Even though they didn't lose that game, they tied. But I think for all intents and purposes, that kind of felt like a loss, right? Especially in a game where the Packers were touchdown favorites on the road in a building they've never lost against a team that can't stop a nosebleed. And they were without one of their linemen, and they were without their number 1 wide receiver. And really, by far and away, the biggest piece of that offense. Although George Pickens, man, showed me something that, I don't know if I ever believed in him on that level. So I might change my evaluation of George Pickens a little bit. Does next Sunday against the Bengals become a game that you're watching and saying, all right, as Bill often says, will the real Green Bay Packers please stand up? The other interesting part of this soundbite is the second half. Forget about the fraud watch designation, but you hear a comment about the defense that Jeff Hafley ran. Let's hear that one more time.
You have an incredible record at AT&T Stadium. Supposed to be a boat race.
So let me stop it right there. Supposed to be a boat race. Supposed to be a blowout. I am perfectly fine coming away from a Packers loss, or in the instance of Sunday's game, a tie, saying the Packers should have won that game. I'm perfectly okay coming away from a result and saying that result should have been different. And again, the Packers were touchdown or greater favorites in both of those games. They should have won both of those games. And I'm perfectly okay saying that. I bristle a little bit when I hear, it shouldn't have even been close. It should have been a blowout. Or in this clip, you heard them say, it should have been a boat race.
You have an incredible record at AT&T Stadium. Supposed to be a boat race. We're talking about blood.
Supposed to be a boat race. I just don't think that's always how the NFL works. Sometimes it is. And for the best, most proven, highest level teams, I think you see that a good amount. Like the Lions over the last couple of years have shown that they can handle and really strong arm and muscle a lesser team pretty consistently and cover spreads, bigger spreads pretty consistently. The Ravens, when they've been at their best, do that pretty well. I think the Cowboys, when they were at their peak 2 years ago with Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy, were a team that would cover big spreads, especially at home. Some teams do reach that status where more often than not, when they're favored by 10.5, 12.5, there are teams that have built themselves up in a way and have shown that they can execute and win those games by the expected margins. I think for most teams, and the Packers have not proven to be an upper echelon consistent, high-level contender yet. I believe they have the makings of that team. but we haven't seen it for more than a week or two to begin the season, and then they've kind of stepped on themselves a little bit the last 2 weeks. I just think it's a trap to say, well, and it shouldn't have even been close. We didn't expect the Cowboys game to be close, but you know what? It was. Dak Prescott played out of his gourd, and the Packers special teams opened the door a little bit. I have a hard time saying it shouldn't have even been close. No issue saying that they should have won. They have no issue saying that. But the NFL it's a weird sport, man. Like, if you could confidently say after games, it shouldn't have been close. It should have been a blowout. If that's the way that the world worked, and if that's the way the NFL worked, then this wouldn't be an impossible sport to bet. Because we would just pick and we would just bet the better teams to cover the big spreads, and they would always do it because, after all, they're way better than the other team, and they should blow them out. But that's not how it works. So had the Packers punched it in at the end of overtime and won the game, I would not have spent time this week saying it shouldn't have even been close, because sometimes in the NFL it is. Sometimes that's just how the league works. Now, they also talk a little bit in this clip, and we can hear that little soundbite too, about the defense that Jeff Hafley ran in this game.
You go in and you get a tie. Not only that, but as a game plan, you run zone, which is all Eberflus does against a quarterback that's all in camp.
ESPN bets.
So what he's saying there, and it's pretty fast and furious, Jeff Hafley ran zone, and that's the type of defense that Matt Eberflus runs. So that's the defense that the Cowboys are seeing in practice, which I think is a little bit, I think it's a little bit of a reach. I also think the defense that Jeff Hafley runs is not the defense that Packers fans were so insistent on, a year and a half ago. We want a defense that gets up and plays press man coverage. For the most part, they're playing too high. Now, in this game, they backed off a little bit, and I'm not really sure why they took that approach. We've talked about it throughout the week. You'll hear Ryan Wood get into that a little bit more on tomorrow night's show. It was an odd game plan. I don't know why they didn't adjust. If the ball's going to come out quickly, you got to stop giving them those quick outlets, and they never really did. And I don't know why. And we'll hear Jeff Hafley probably next week talk about that when everybody's back in town and they're back on a normal media schedule after the bye. I think most Packers fans have it in their mind that Jeff Hafley plays press man coverage. Everybody's down in the box, hyper aggressive. Hasn't really been what they've done. They've played too high. The difference has been they've rushed the passer. So you don't think about what's going on in the back end because it's not as important. So I think that's a little bit of a misnomer. And then at the end, you hear this from Mike Greenberg one more time, and this is the last piece of this audio that I want to kind of parse out.
All Eberflus does against a quarterback that's all in camp.
ESPN bet still has them as the favorites to win the division. You like Green Bay or Detroit in that division?
Right now, I like Detroit.
Detroit.
Right now, I like
top to bottom.
Top to bottom. Love Detroit. I just think it's funny because after week one, a lot of people left Detroit for dead. It's like, well, Dan Campbell's a meathead. He's going to be nothing without Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. It's clear. And I think it's funny. I don't pretend to be smarter than anybody else. I'm definitely not. But remember, I told you after week one and week two, like, hey, maybe let's just wait a couple of weeks before we talk about benching Caleb Williams. Hey, maybe Dan Campbell has earned a little bit of the benefit of the doubt over the years. Like, good coaches lose coordinators. Long tenured coaches who are successful and win games in one place for a long time lose coordinators. They're hired away and they have to replace them. That's how it works. So I thought there was a lot of overreaction after week one and week two. And that's just kind of the way that it is. I'm not going to act like I'm so much better because I didn't overreact. But it's a little ridiculous after week one and week two. And you're like, yeah, Packers are Super Bowl favorites in the NFC. I don't see how anybody could touch them. And then 2.5 weeks later, it's like, yeah, Detroit's the cream of the crop in the NFC again. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe we should be a little bit more conservative when declaring one team so clearly better than the other, or straight up declaring that, yeah, that team is cooked this season after one game. So interesting sound. That's where we began the Bill Michaels Show. That's where we'll begin this show. And I'll take your thoughts on the Packers coming up next at 608-321-1670. We'll mix in baseball conversation as well. The Brewers will know their opponent in a matter of hours. The Padres and the Cubs are in the bottom of the first inning. So we will keep an eye on that game, and we can talk about maybe some of the dynamics or the details that will be at play for the Brewers as they begin the NLDS either at 1 o'clock or 8 o'clock on Saturday. So all of that is on the table. I'll take your calls on either the Brewers or the Packers coming up next at 608-321-1670.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
We'll see. I don't know. I think it's still, we're ways out from that, so we'll have a better indication. I would say Monday.
That's Matt LaFleur talking about the availability or potential availability of Zach Tom and Aaron Banks. They're two linemen that have been in and out since week 1. Or was Zach Tom week 2 against the Commanders? Aaron Banks has been hurt the whole time he's been here so far. So I'm not going to keep track of that injury. I can't remember exactly when Tom's injury started, but gave it a go against Cleveland, got hurt, left again. And I think that's told a big part of the story of the Packers offense the last 2 weeks. It's like you can't run the ball at all. And when you truly can't run the ball at all, even if you're passing it well, or even if you're playing a poor passing defense, right, it just becomes a little bit more difficult to operate normally and operate in a way that's relaxed and consistent and efficient, especially because I think Matt LaFleur's best attribute as a head coach and a play caller is his running game and all of the different things that he does with that running game, with motions and everything that branches off of that running game. And that's something that they've been without. I'm asking you, are the Packers on fraud watch? This is what we led the Bill Michaels show with earlier today, and I thought it was kind of a fun topic. So your calls are welcome and encouraged at 608-321-1670. I still remain very bullish on the Packers' talent. And we talked about this before they ever even played a game. I mean, just look at the defense. Xavier McKinney, who has an argument to be the best safety in football on the back end. Edgerrin Cooper, who might be one of the best young defensive players in the league already at inside linebacker. He had probably his worst game as a pro in Dallas on Sunday, but I still believe in that talent. And with a complementary piece like Quay Walker, I really like that unit. And then the front, led by Micah Parsons, it's not like he's alone up there. We all like Rashawn Gary quite a bit. I like him a lot more as number 2. And then players on the inside, Devontae Wyatt. His injury is a legitimate one, and you'll hear me discuss that with Ryan Wood on tomorrow's show. I recorded with him today, so I'm just excited for you guys to hear that. So I guess I'll reference it a time or two, things that we discussed and things that we covered. I believe in that talent. even though the corner room isn't anything incredible, I think they're good enough. And Nixon has showed really well through the first couple of weeks. Bullard has played some of his best football as a pro. Evan Williams continues to look the part that he's looked really ever since he came up and started playing for the Packers as a rookie last year. I still believe in the talent. I believe in their depth of talent on offense. I'm interested to see by the end of the year, like, is Romeo Doubs still clear-cut their number one wide receiver? That path is made a little bit more even and clear with the absence of Jaden Reed. But does Dontavian Wicks emerge in a big way throughout the year? The potential could be there. What does Matthew Golden become? Do they actually let him play wide receiver, as we talked about last night? How do they use Savion Williams, right? Can they get Josh Jacobs in the running game going? I believe in their depth of talent. I believe in all the players. I'm interested to see how it shakes out, and I'm unsure how it's going to shake out, but I believe in the collection of talent. I still think this team has as much talent as any team in the NFC, probably except for the Eagles. However, I think they're in the neighborhood of the Eagles, and if they play well, they could beat the Eagles. I didn't necessarily feel that way last year, but I feel that way now. I think with the addition of Micah Parsons and a lot of these younger players hopefully taking a step in years 2 or years 3, like, I believe they're in the neighborhood of the Eagles. I think their talent is on par or just as good as the Rams. I think they're on par or just as good as the Lions. That might just be a home and away. Like, you gotta beat the Lions at home and do your best on the road. That might be true of the Vikings. We'll see what happens with their quarterback situation. If McCarthy's at least halfway decent, I still think that's a good game. I think the Packers should be better, just based on early returns and what we've seen from McCarthy or even Carson Wentz. Then you talk about the Buccaneers. The Packers are in the Buccaneers neighborhood or better than the Buccaneers. I think their talent is not the problem. Their problem is going to be Jordan Love executing in the biggest moments, Matt LaFleur executing in the biggest moments, and players kind of writ large not making those crucial mistakes that have cost them games over the last couple of years. And Packers fans will say, well, the only team that can beat the Packers is the Packers. Yeah, but look, I don't really like that explanation. I don't really like framing it that way, because when you say, well, the only team that can beat the Packers is the Packers, you make it sound like, well, the Packers are the best team on the planet if they just play their best. Well, part of being a good team is playing your best. That's part of the thing. You know what I mean? It'd be saying like, well, Grant's the best employee in the world, assuming he comes to work on time. Well, part of being a good employee is being trustworthy to show up to work when you're supposed to be there. You know what I mean? Like, that's a pretty important caveat. The only team that can beat the Packers is the Packers. Well, if the Packers beat themselves a lot, then they're actually not that good of a team. A team that beats themselves is not a good team. That to me is the thing this year. And unlike talent, execution and I guess high level detailed play in big moments, that's something that can be figured out over the course of a year. That's something that can be discovered. That's something that can be coached up or worked on or practiced. Whether you believe in Matt LaFleur's ability to do that. I know a lot of Packers fans have kind of waxed and waned on him over the last 2 weeks, especially. But again, in theory, a good coach or a high-level quarterback should be able to make those steps and grow over the course of a season. There's no way of getting more talented in the middle of the year. Now, you could do what the Commanders did last year and trade for like Marshawn Lattimore, but that move really didn't make a huge difference for them. I don't think that changed their fortunes down the stretch. In fact, that might have hurt them. Like, the Packers were picking on Marshawn Lattimore in week 2. I don't think he's been that good for him. So once the season starts, your talent is kind of your talent. Your roster is kind of your roster. You can supplement a little bit, might pick a gem off someone's practice squad or make a trade. But for the most part, your roster is your roster. And I think that's the best part of this Packers team. The thing that could stop them is execution, coaching, attention to detail. And that stuff can be fostered throughout the rest of the year. That's something that can be worked on Monday through Friday and worked out in games. So I like the spot that the Packers are in. I wish they were 3-1 or 4-0, because as you heard Ryan Wood say at the beginning of the show, like, they really have no reason to not be 4-0. After starting 2-0, they kind of fell all over themselves over the next 2 weeks. And it's a bummer they're only 2-1-1. But everything is in front of them. It's really a question, and it's a matter of if you believe in Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love and their ability to execute at a high level in big moments. Because I think the talent, everything else is there. In a 1-score game in the fourth quarter, can you make that one throw? Can you manage that clock in a way that, is going to help you win a game? And the last 2 weeks, the Packers have really struggled with that. 608-321-1670. Let's take a call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Tony from Texas, and I'm going to run with what you just said right there.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you this question. Do you think a quarterback takes on the personality of the head coach?
I think sometimes. Yeah. Maybe
Like
a quarterback like Jordan
Belichick.
Love. Like I don't think that Aaron Rodgers did. I think some quarterbacks are so great. They are a personality and they are an offense in and of themselves. But I think on some level, yeah, probably.
Well, I'll kind of beg to differ with you on that. I think Rodgers and LaFleur, they look like they're the smartest guys in the room most of the time, the plays they were whipping up. And then you got Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur's nervous Nelly. He's basically just puckering up his butthole at the end of the game, doesn't want to screw up because he doesn't want to give up a field goal at the wire. I get it. Then how's Jordan Love going to feel? He's like, I can't screw up here. I'm just going to, not screw up because
throw check downs.
Doesn't want me to screw up. Yeah. And the play call, that play call shit was so easy to, if he would have just faked that little screen to Golden, it was there. If you just went deep, you know what play I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
That was right there.
I think, and I said this, if not yesterday, then it was on Monday or Tuesday. I don't even, what is it, Thursday today? I think Matt LaFleur's got to know his quarterback too. And for a long time, Kirk Cousins was a victim of this. Like on 4th and 8, he'd throw a 3-yard check down. And yeah, Kirk is a bonehead for that, but his offensive coordinator and play caller has to know, I can't give Kirk that option. I can't put that on his menu because if he takes it, then it's on me. You know what I mean? So I think Matt LaFleur has to be aware of that as well.
Agree. I got 2 points before we drop.
Hit me.
I have never been more nervous on special teams in my life. Watching a punt return, a kick return, a kickoff, a punt, a field goal attempt. That's not a good feeling to have.
No, all of them.
Second,
and it's crazy, Tony, that you're saying that because I remember the Amari Rodgers year. It's just like every special teams play was a debacle, like an absolute disaster.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I had a friend I brought up to Lambeau when we played the Cowboys a couple years ago. He brought that name up. He goes, remember that punt return you guys had that always fumbled? And I'm like, yeah, Amari Rodgers. He goes, you guys are worse now. I'm like, oh my God, I think you're right.
Well, they're doing the same thing. They're making the rookie wide receiver who's never returned punts. They're making him return punts. It's the same path that they took with Amari Rodgers.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want 40-year-old Randall Cobb, though, returning punts either. Can we find a happy medium here? Last point I have is all these pre-snap penalties. I don't want to hear about the practice time. I don't want to hear about the CBA. Every team has the same rules.
Yeah.
Why? It's veterans. It's rookies. It's Elkin Jenkins one play. It's Rasheed Walker the other play. It's all. Jordan Morgan might just suck. I don't know. So they got to figure that out, and that's on the coach. And you're talking about all the talent, and you and I agree on a lot of things. We're going to agree on this. This team is talented.
Yeah.
Top maybe 4 in the league with talent. What does that mean? If you're not coaching them up to their ability, you're going to get fired.
Yeah.
And I'll leave you on that.
Well, that's how the NFL works. I appreciate Tony. That's a good call. Yeah. The pre-snap penalties. I think the Browns game is such just a horrible example of how everything goes wrong, and it presents in concentration penalties, holding penalties. The Cowboys game was better. One of the pre-snap penalties was Elton Jenkins like moving the ball, which is like, okay, yeah, sure, guys, throw the flag on that. Whatever. I don't know the rule. Elton Jenkins is moved to center. Again, I'll say probably could have used some reps in off-season workouts, OTAs, training camp, whatever. He didn't get many, so he's figuring out those nuances on the fly. I think most of the offensive line penalties against Dallas were limited to those players just not being very good. Like Jordan Morgan got beat, so he held. Or Donovan Kennard got held, or whatever his name is, Kennard. He got beat, so he held. I don't think that's a concentration thing. I think that's a backup playing in a spot you would ideally not like them to be in, and it didn't go well, and it results in a penalty. So that, to me, is not concentration. The pre-snap stuff, that's concentration to me. 608-321-1670. One more call, and then we'll take a break here. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, it's old Clemhead.
Hey, Clemhead, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Pretty good day. No complaints.
Yeah, not a long day like some of your usual days.
Wednesday. I was a little sleepy last night by the end of the huddle. I'm not going to lie. But the huddle ends with our picks. So then I get all riled up again before 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I know. I was listening in. First of all, great call by Tony from Texas.
He's the best.
Top 10 Tony, as usual. But I, much like you, I've been a staunch Matt LaFleur defender for quite some time. And I think he is really smart, and he's got great ideas and stuff. But I'm so tired of week after week after week. So we need to do this better. We shouldn't. We need to practice this. We should. This should. I should. You know what? You're the head coach. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Quit telling us what you should do and just do it. I almost swore. Come on, Matt. You're smart enough. He needs somebody. He needs to hire a big thug from a northern Wisconsin snowmobile bar, like you said before.
Yeah.
And get in there and say, God dang it, Matt, do this.
Yeah.
Slap him up a little bit. That's the one thing that bothers me. I'm so tired of hearing the same thing. We should do this. We should do that. Well, coaches are supposed to, unless he can't get through to his players, maybe. I don't know. I hope he can, because I hate when the coach loses his team. But I don't know. He's just not. He's not performing at a major league level.
Not the last 2 weeks, and it's been frustrating. That's a really good call, Clem. Had you and Tony back to back. That's about as good as it gets. The Cleveland game, I really have no issues with anything Matt LaFleur did. His O-line was in shambles. They were down to quite literally their last 5 guys. They couldn't run block. They couldn't pass block. As a play caller and a coach, like at a certain point, what are you to do? And then Jordan Love plays that or throws that awful interception. And it's like, okay, in that game, in that environment, I would probably be conservative as a head coach too. And I don't even know that Matt LaFleur is that conservative. They drove down to the 20. That should be a chip shot field goal. They make it. And we're not still talking about the Browns game. That's just an ugly game that featured a lot of injuries. And the Packers are a good team, so they executed to the end when it mattered. And Jordan Love led a game-winning drive. Set the Browns game to the side. The Dallas game for me with Matt LaFleur is a lot stickier. And I think we've talked about that throughout the week. I think I've made that clear. Like, I don't understand what he was scared of in overtime. And I don't understand getting cute. I think I said on Monday, I don't understand. That was not the game to gild the lily. They were pass blocking fine enough, and Jordan Love was ripping it. So that's my frustration. And Clem, to your point about, Matt LaFleur saying every week, we got to do this, I got to do this. I also think that's the nature of having the same coach for a long time. You just start to hear the same things, and you get worn out a little bit. And if a new coach were to come in and say kind of mostly the same things, we'd probably say, oh, this is interesting. This is refreshing. That's just kind of how coaches talk. So when you have the same guy over and over again, you're going to hear the same things. The problem is it's a lot of the same mistakes. I don't want to see the same stuff on Sundays. You could say whatever you want in your press conference, but I don't want to see the same mistakes on Sundays. That's what's bothering me. We'll take a break and more of your phone calls after this. 608-321-1670.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I still think there's just little small details on a handful of plays, and we'll go back and watch it on film, but there's just those small details where, you know, in the grand scheme of a game, those are the things that it comes down to, those things that can win you a game or lose you a game. And I think there's just a lot of stuff that we still got to clean up, and there's still obviously, you know, pre-snap penalties, things like that, which we got to clean up the operation. But there's just little details on a handful of plays where we just got to lock in and focus on.
Little details, little details, little details. You hear that a couple times. That's what I'm saying. Like, talent is not the Packers' issue. I think they're one of the more talented teams in football. Can you make the biggest plays in the biggest moments that are needed to win a game? That's the Packers' mission over the course of this year. And I think that's something that you can, like, get better at. That's something that you can improve at over the course of a year. You can't necessarily get more talented, right? Like, I would rather have the talent and figure it out on the fly than, well, this team can execute. They're just not very good. Well, that's a team with a ceiling. I think this Packers team, their ceiling is a championship. And I think their floor is relatively high, too. Like, I don't think this is a team that's going to crater. I think their floor and ceiling are very high. But I want that higher ceiling, and I think with their talent, they have it. It's a lot of, we got to get this cleaned up, little details. We got to be locked in here and there. It's like, yeah, been saying, Jordan. That's what we've been talking about. Bobby and Menominee texts in, and your texts and calls are welcome. 608-321-1670. Bobby says, it's going to come down to if the Packers can injure an opposing quarterback in the playoffs. I'm interested to see where this goes. They won in 2010 because we injured Jay Cutler and his backup and got to play Caleb Haney to go to the Super Bowl. Also injured Big Ben in the Super Bowl, though he stayed in the game. I don't know, man. Caleb Haney threw a pretty bad pick. Jay Cutler was known to do that over the course of his career. So I don't know. Did they win that game if it's Jay Cutler? Maybe, maybe not. You really think that Jay Cutler was preventing that Packers team from making the Super Bowl? Maybe. You could argue that, but it's not like they injured prime Tom Brady, man. It was smoking Jay Cutler, who looked like he didn't want to be out there. He didn't want to be out there in the cold. That's what it looked like. So, no, I don't know. Part of beating up a quarterback, speeding up a quarterback, yes, that's a big part of it. And I think that's been a big part of their shortcomings the last couple of years. They just haven't had a pass rush. They've needed a guy like Micah Parsons. The Cubs have loaded the bases in the bottom of the second. They already got one run in. Yu Darvish, man. Christian Yelich was right years ago with that tweet. Like, Yu Darvish, a pants crapping for the ages from Yu Darvish there. So now we see bases loaded, nobody out. Dansby Swanson at the plate. What a handsome fella, too, if we're all being honest. 608-321-1670. Let's take another call here. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this? Hung up. Call back. You know the number. We'll try again. I'm just watching baseball out of the corner of my eye. Jeez. It just doesn't feel like the Padres are going to win this game. These pitchers are all over the place. Who's even in right now? Estrada? The Padres have a good bullpen, but here's the thing. They've used a lot of those high leverage guys the last two games, and they're probably available, a lot of them, to pitch again today. But now the Cubs have seen him a couple of times. That familiarity becomes a big piece. I think it probably became a piece in Cleveland and Detroit. Cleveland's running these relievers out there that now the Tigers have already seen a couple of times. Not to mention they're in that division. They see those guys a lot anyways. That's a big piece of it. And I think that stung the Brewers in the past. Like, how many times had guys seen Devin Williams? How many times had they seen Josh Hader? You know, maybe just 2 or 3 times throughout the year, but that's enough to have a little bit of a base and a background when the postseason rolls around and the at-bats really matter. The Padres just walked in a run, man. This is shameful to watch. Are you a man or a mouse? You Darvish, you are indeed a mouse. And whoever this Estrada guy is, I'm sorry, watch him be one of the better relievers in baseball, and I don't know who he is. Showing that I maybe don't know ball after all. But yeah, we're talking about the Packers. This is the soundbite that got Bill's show started earlier today. I'll play it for you one more time. Are the Packers on fraud watch? This is from Get Up this morning. I like this sound.
All right, we're looking for hot takes, and let's start in Green Bay.
Yes, you know what? I hate to do this. Love Coach LaFleur. Friend of the show. Friend of the show. Friend of the show, but I got to cover this objectively. Packers are now on fraud watch after their last 2 performances.
Unfortunately, I think my friend Will Compton is correct. You go through a game last week, you're playing the Browns, you lose to the Browns. Micah Parsons is coming back to Dallas. You have an incredible record at AT&T Stadium. Supposed to be a boat race. We're talking about bloodbath over here on Thursday last week. You go in and you get a tie. Not only that, but as a game plan, you run zone, which is all Eberflus does against a quarterback that's all in camp.
ESPN Bet still has them as the favorites to win the division. You like Green Bay or Detroit in that division?
Right now, I like Detroit.
Detroit.
Right now, I like
top to bottom.
Detroit. And right now, like, Detroit's looked better the last 2 weeks. Detroit's also further along in their progression, right? They're a year or two ahead of where the Packers have been. Now, with new coordinators, maybe that resets some things. And week 1 was certainly a product of the Packers having a lot more to play for. It's not a surprise. We talked about it all summer. Like, that was a game the Packers had to have. I just think it's funny that so many people left the Lions for dead after week 1, only to now 2 or 3 weeks later say, yeah, the Lions are the best team in the division. Like, okay, well, if you always thought that was a possibility, then maybe we shouldn't have left him for dead and buried Dan Campbell, who's proven to be a very good coach the last couple of years. A lot of offseason disrespect, a lot of dismissive conversations and dismissive takes being thrown around Dan Campbell. It's like, well, without Ben Johnson, he'll be nothing. Well, I don't know, man. Little disrespectful to the first guy who's made Detroit viable in forever. And I also think that, Ben Johnson then going to Chicago and calling out Matt LaFleur in his presser was, I liked beating him. Well, dude, you were the OC. Like, I don't know. It's kind of lame, kind of disrespectful to Dan Campbell. So I've been a Dan Campbell defender over these last couple of months. Finally got their first out, the Padres did. So now it's back to the top of the order. Michael Busch at the plate, who Mike Schilt might just walk here to get to. That's what he did in game 1. What a lug. What an old head. Walking Michael Busch to put Nico Horner at the plate. With runners in scoring position, Nico Horner, one of the best players in baseball with runners in scoring position. Wrigley at their feet. I just can't look away from this. Big swing, home run swing on a breaking ball from Michael Busch. Let's take a break. We'll come back. I have a couple comments from William Contreras that I want to share with you. He's got a player out or an article out in the Players Tribune. We can talk about that next and more of your phone calls as well as we wrap up the first hour of the Wisco Sports Show.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
You're not going to be able to keep William out no matter what the analysis is of that injury. He's going to play, and I'm betting on that.
That's Pat Murphy talking about William Contreras, that broken hand. It's been broken for 2 years. I have no doubt that he's going to play. Why would he stop now? I sound so jaded. I'm trying not to be. We'll get back to the Packers here after the top of the hour. William Contreras has a piece of the Players Tribune today. If you would like, I can read you some of it. Brewers fans were a little bit gassed up on Twitter, reading little excerpts and talking about this today. If I may play some of my reading music here. Where are my glasses? It says, Milwaukee, I'll keep this short. Better, I think, to be short. Of course, it's a tremendous season for us, 97 wins. It's a lot of wins. Wow. But if you know me, you know I'm a man of few words, and I think few words actually is how it should be for our team. We're not one of those teams who's saying this and that, making so much noise. We're not a team in the bright lights. We're another kind of team. I won a World Series with the Braves a long time ago. I was so young. No one said we could do it, and now they want to know the secret for that group. Here's the secret. Unidad. Anyone know what that means in Spanish? We only won 88. Acuna is hurt, but we were all united. We had belief together. What are we playing for? Ask everyone on that team. It's the same answer. Ask most other teams. It's a lot of guys with different answers. That's why not a lot of guys have rings. 3 years ago, my agent calls me. Atlanta traded you. I told him, trade me back. I'm like, Milwaukee? Okay, nobody talked to me. I could have kept that to yourself. Nah, it's just crazy to be traded like that. Crazy. I barely understood what a trade means. But what choice do you have? So I try to accept it. I try to think, William, be honest, what do you know about Milwaukee? Yes, for a Venezuelan kid and even coming from Atlanta, it's a different world, a different culture. But then I got here and I got to know things. It's an amazing place. the organization, the fans. It's such a great baseball city. Funny how things change. Now, if I think about the trade, I got lucky. My first season with the Brewers, it was kind of a lesson. We played well, 92 wins, champions of the division. I'm playing a lot. I'm hitting. One thing with Milwaukee, though, it's very calm. And if you're a guy like me who's giving 200% to win, always intense, you have to kill me dead to beat me. The calm can be helpful. It's balance. But I thought we had guys in 2023 where, okay, maybe it's too calm. Because if we lose, it's not killing them. I remember Arizona beat us in 2 straight playoffs, or in those playoffs in 2 straight games. So we're out. I left the field. I'm actually crying tears. I'm feeling responsible. But then I'm seeing guys who are leaving. It's 5 minutes after the game. They almost look happy. One guy, he's even saying to me, yeah, now I'll go fishing. I'm like, what is this? We had to move on from that type of mindset. Something was missing to be great. And then before my second year with the Brewers, last season, our manager, Craig Counsell, left for Chicago. I had a lot of love for Craig. He cared much about our Latino players and always treated us with respect. And it's an excellent contract he got. But it hurts to lose your leader after you win the division, especially to a rival like the Cubs. When we found out, that was tough, but it's still love, and I'll wish Craig success until he plays the Brewers. Sadly, we also lost our corporate. Where is this going? Just guys who left, losses. Can I skip ahead? The last thing I want to speak about is our current season. Let's skip to that part. That's what I want to hear about. You can't explain it, people will say. No one was picking us. We started so slow. I wasn't picking them. Yet we did what we did. 3 long winning streaks, most wins in Brewers history. It's historic. But I actually think I can explain it. Okay, so there's this saying in football. It goes, the ball is round. And what that means is the game is unpredictable. For example, say it's the offseason. Teams are making moves, huge trades, huge signings. Sure, but here's the thing. It's only the offseason. Once the real season starts, once the ball starts bouncing, anything can happen. Most times it bounces in favor of the big cities. Teams with the biggest investments, biggest talent. But sometimes it doesn't. Well, there you have it. Sometimes it doesn't. Teams with the biggest investments, the biggest talent, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the ball just bounces another way. You can't explain it, can't predict it, can't pay for it. You can only go out there and play. It's just a ball, and you know what I'm saying? The ball is round. All right, so maybe I'm a man of few words, plus a few more ha-ha. This is just a funny thing to read. But I wanted to do these things for Brewers fans because the journey of this team has meant so much. This team, it's so special. And for the first time since I won a ring, I'm really feeling that feeling again. I'm looking around our locker room, our ballpark, and that same Unidad. It's funny, I still have a little regret years later for being rude to my agent about the trade. Milwaukee? Wow, what a wrong way to react. Now I hope I spend my whole career here, and I hope to be on the first World Series winner in Brewers history. It'll happen, I bet. It's like Bob always says, no one better than you. Well, actually, Bob, probably some are better than me. I'm not the best. None of our group is. But if you're telling me another team is the best, man, I swear I haven't seen them. No one is better than Milwaukee right now. No one is better than us. That is very nice. I laugh. I mock a little bit, but that is nice. That's William Contreras, the Players Tribune. I skipped the middle part because I didn't need to hear about. And then Craig left, and then Corbin left, and then Euchre died. Not funny. Death is not funny. It's just let's just skip to the main point here, which is we're playing together, playing for each other, and no one is better than us right now. I certainly hope so. I do not at all look forward to the idea of Cubs Brewers in the playoffs. That sounds miserable. Sounds like I'll enjoy very little of it. But that's baseball. The ball is round, as they say in soccer, which is funny because round balls bounce a little bit more predictably than like the football is weirdly shaped. You ever watch grown men try to chase a football around? Soccer balls actually roll rather consistently. But the ball is round, as they say in the sport of soccer, or football in the rest of the year, or the world, which makes a lot more sense. Rick says, Grant, get something beside Dollar Tree readers. All of you know I got those at Walmart. Thank you. Thank you, Rick. Maybe I'll get a new pair. I don't know. I found an old picture today of me in a Quick Trip bathroom wearing my John Lennon sunglasses, which broke. I miss them a lot. Maybe I'll get some round readers so I can really look wise, can really look like the hippies that sit and read performatively in the coffee shops all around Madison. Love, no judgment. It's just, come on. Reading at a bar. Come on. No judgment if you do that, but come on. We can get back into the Packers after the top of the hour. I'll take more of your calls, and we can talk Brewers too. In order to dig into any series, I kind of need to know the opponent, but we can talk a little bit about the Padres and the Cubs. At this point, you'd bet on it being the Cubs. They're up 2-0 in the third inning. So that's what it feels like, but we have no way of knowing. We can talk both Brewers and Packers when we come back, and more of your phone calls at 608-321-1670.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Wisconsin will head to Michigan tomorrow. It's where they're going to take on the 20th ranked Wolverines on Saturday. Badgers have not beaten a ranked team since 2021, coming off back-to-back losses by double digits. Michigan enters 3-1 with the lone loss coming on the road at Oklahoma. They're led by true freshman quarterback Bryce Underwood, but slowing the running game figures to be Wisconsin's focus. Wolverines ranked 8th in the country in rushing offense. Badgers number 1 against the run. Coach Luke Fickell knows facing this group is different.
Yeah, it'll be a test. I don't know that we've had by any means a test like this in the running game this year. And so we have done a good job up front. We've done a good job at controlling the run and giving ourselves a better opportunities to obviously to win football games when you can stop the run. But this is definitely going to be a different challenge. I think that is definitely the strength of the offense.
Wisconsin expected to start Danny O'Neal at quarterback again, though Billy Edwards Jr. has done some work in practice this week. Michigan favored by 17.5. Kick on Saturday is at 11. Turning to the Packers, they're on their bye week. They'll return next Sunday to face a Cincinnati team that has gotten blown out in their 2 games since losing quarterback Joe Burrow to injury.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers are going to find out their opponent for the NLDS real soon. Here's the Cubs and Padres facing off right now in a winner-take-all Game 3 at Wrigley Field. Whoever comes out on top will come to American Family Field on Saturday to face Milwaukee in Game 1. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
They need to reset, and we'll see if they're able to do that.
It's just frustrating because it didn't have to go this way. They were 2-0 and then were touchdown or greater favorites in their next 2 games, and now you're 2-1.
They should be 4-0 right now.
Yeah, or at least 3-1. Like I could stomach 3-1. It's the NFL. Weird things happen, but 2-1 after that start feels really disappointing. I agree.
You can stomach 3-1. They should be 4-0 right now. They should absolutely have beaten the Cleveland Browns, who showed against the Detroit Lions on Sunday that they are still the Cleveland Browns, and they should have beaten. You put up 40 points on the road with that defense. I don't care how good Dak Prescott is. You would have told me going in they're putting up 40 points. I would have said they won by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
They should be 4-0, and they're 2-1-1.
Yeah, I don't even know because it was like watching a slow motion car crash in front of your face, where I'm just looking at the clock. I'm like, oh my God, there's going to be no time left.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
All right, hour number 2 on a Thursday means this hour is really just the pregame show to Thorson and Heilbrin, who will be back at Monks and Sun Prairie tonight for our WOZN audience here in Madison. Last week, we were in La Crosse for Oktoberfest. We'll be back over on the east side or the northeast side over on Sun Prairie or in Sun Prairie, right off the main drag. It's not a long trip. I was over there just 2 weeks ago. Coming all the way from the west side, I was over there in like 20 minutes, all the way across town. So get over there for food and drink specials. Zach and Ebo are both tremendous hangs. I can attest personally. The best part of my day is coming in and seeing Ebo and chatting with him for a couple minutes, and then really it's all downhill from there. But it's a tall hill. I mean, it's a very tall hill. So Zach and Ebo will take over at 6 o'clock, talk Badgers and everything else. Over the line this morning got weird, so I would expect that to continue to our evening programming tonight. More of your phone calls on the Packers and the Brewers. I gave you a little bit from William Contreras' Player Tribune piece, which came out either last night or this morning. I find it to be very good. It's always exciting on the heels of a playoff run, coming right before a playoff run, a hopeful playoff run. The Cubs are leading the Padres 2-0 right now. It's the bottom of the third. Yu Darvish made it, about 10 minutes. He made it to the top of the second and did not record an out. So man or mouse test clearly a mouse, you Darvish. Christian Yelich was right. But I'll take your calls on the Packers or the Brewers or whatever. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. Long time. How we doing?
I'm doing great, Cone. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. You just were talking about Hills, and I'm hoping you got a couple minutes to talk Badger basketball, but
why not?
Great video from Jesse Temple running Bascom Hill with the team.
That was pretty cool. And his whole goal, he said, was to not throw up. And he said earlier on Bill's show, the key is to stop before you feel like you're going to throw up. As he's not on the team, he's just there to experience it with him. So if he has to, take a break to avoid puking, I feel like you can't puke in front of the team. Like I can't go cover players who have seen me throw up. I just feel like he can't go that far.
I actually think the opposite. I think it helps build that relationship with the team because you're putting in the work right alongside the players you're covering. I mean, the best the Packer beat can do is grab beers with Matt LaFleur. I mean, they're not out there shaving their eyebrows and choking clock management away.
That's true. They're not walking the walk. They're just drinking the drink, I guess. That is an interesting point. No, Jesse, dude, every day I see Jesse with a new story or a new video. I'm like, God, good for Jesse. He's putting out some awesome content.
And what are your thoughts on Brad Davison replacing Kirk Penny?
Well, Kirk Penny was pretty important, as we talked about last night, for revitalizing the offense. I don't know, man. People have such mixed feelings about Brad Davison, and I guess I don't really know where I stand. He was a good Badger. I didn't really love his game. I didn't really have anything personally against him like so many people did. I didn't like his game. Like, he was going to rip 8 to 10 threes a game, and he was either going to hit 6 of them or hit 1 of them. And like, that was just going to decide the night. So my issue is more like, I just didn't love his game. I don't know. I think he's probably an awesome guy, and he will help the program in whatever capacity they put him in.
Yeah, I think it's an overall net win for the program. Guard bringing in a guy that like quintessentially represents what Wisconsin basketball is.
Yeah.
I think that will have a good bleed over for the rest of the team. And you compare it, I hate to do this, but you compare it to the football program where they've run to the other side of the fence from everything that's ever made Wisconsin football great. So, just another tip of the cap to Greg Gard.
No, don't hate to do it. That's what I was going to do. As soon as your comment was done, it's like, and compare that to the football program where they lose a little bit more of that every day. So, no, I think the last 3 years, what Kirk Penny has established, like Jesse shared last night, they're not going to go away from that. They're not going to do away with that. But it will be on Gard and if it's just Davison or if he brings in other people too to continue building on what they've been doing the last couple of years with Penny.
Yeah, just don't get Nate Reavers anywhere near this program. That's all I ask. Last thing.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you.
I was going to transition to Brewers, but William Contreras, just the best call out I've ever seen of Corbin Burns, with guys looking happy to leave, start their off season. Just love it.
You think it was Corbin Burns?
100%, no doubt in my mind.
Interesting. All right, well, we'll leave it there, Cone. I appreciate it. What I was going to ask, and maybe we can talk about this as the season gets closer, is who is the Badger you would least like to come back? What's the worst name you could read on a press release? Reavers is probably up there. Who was the guy, or which team was it? Well, I think Reavers is on that team that got was it Alondo Tucker? Who was it? Like, they wanted to get Gard fired and they had that audio and they released it. Who else was on that team? I need to go back and find that. Out on Reavers, there were others on that team who I'm just struggling to remember. The Demetric Trice era was just such a, I don't know. This program's better with a La Crosse Central grad at the helm. I guess that's what I'm saying. Unless it's Kobe King, who I saw at Oktoberfest last week. By the way, he must be back in town. I don't know, full-time capacity, or maybe he just comes back to visit. I saw the Davis family, Jordan, and I think I saw Terrence Thompson. I didn't see Johnny, but he might have been over there at our parade tailgate on Saturday. So La Crosse Central royalty. I would love Bronson Koenig coming back to the program. Would be like that. The Packers could use a little bit of Bronson Koenig. They could use a little killer clutch gene. That's something that they're lacking. As we talked about in the first hour, they're not lacking talent. They're lacking the ability to execute. This is where we started Bill's show earlier today, so we can circle back and kind of reset. Bill will text me once a week, is probably a little bit more often, but every other week, maybe twice a month, he'll text me and say, hey, so-and-so said this on Get Up this morning. Can you go grab the audio? And I can always get it. I'm going to have to DVR the replay and then, cut it on my computer. But the thing is, for the hour leading into Bill's show, like he's at his home studio, right? And his home studio has got a TV on the wall behind where his camera is. So like he can have games on, or he'll have, I've done shows there too. Like he'll have First Take on or Get Up, it's nice to watch the headlines and just see what's getting talked about. And, if there's breaking news, it'll pop up. It's just nice to have a TV rolling. I was like, oh, Dan Orlovsky said this. Can you go get it? And I think, I don't know this to be true. Maybe I want this to be true. I think when Bill texts me something like that, he thinks that I'm here at work in a production studio with 4 monitors, and I got my heads, and I'm mixing audio and cutting sound and booking guests. And usually I'm just in my car. I just spilled my coffee on my lap, and I'm digging for like one more $1 bill so I can afford to go buy like a fountain drink at Quick Trip or whatever. Like that's normally what I'm doing. I'm like, yeah, I got it. And then I, rip through my DVR through Get Up or First Take or whatever he wants. But this is the audio from ESPN earlier today, and we'll get back to your phone calls.
All right, we're looking for hot takes, and let's start in Green Bay.
Yes, you know what? I hate to do this. Love Coach LaFleur. Friend of the show. Friend of the show. Friend of the show, but I got to cover this objectively. Packers are now on fraud watch after their last 2 performances.
Unfortunately, I think my friend Will Compton is correct. You go through a game last week. You're playing the Browns. You lose to the Browns. Micah Parsons is coming back to Dallas. You have an incredible record at AT&T Stadium. Supposed to be a boat race. We're talking about bloodbath over here on Thursday last week. You go in and you get a tie. Not only that, but as a game plan, you run zone, which is all Eberflus does against a quarterback that's all in camp.
ESPN Bet still has them as the favorites to win the division. You like Green Bay or Detroit in that division?
Right now, I like
Detroit.
Right now, I like
top
Detroit.
to bottom.
So just to update, Detroit was screwed and Dan Campbell was porked without Ben Johnson less than a month ago. Now they're back to the favorites in the North, which the Packers are still favored. I haven't looked at the odds. I don't really care. It's just important to maybe not overreact to one result, especially in week 1. 608-321-1670 or the Packers on Fraud Watch. Kind of a fun topic. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Darnell. I just have
Hey, Darnell.
just one quick comment about the Badger basketball.
Please.
I got to go. If they want to teach the kids how to get a good nut kick in, you show them Brad Davison, right?
Yeah.
Let Brad Davison teach that.
Make free
if you
throws.
Want to teach,
lots of other
if you want to teach the kids how to send pictures of their nuts or their wieners, then you have Bronson King again there.
All right. I won't have you slandering my king like this. That man stepped in as a literal child, as a true freshman on a Final Four team and hit big nuts shot after big nuts shot. I won't have you slandering him. So he likes to dabble in photography in his free time. We've all been there.
I'm salty. He beat my my high school team and dropped 45 points on us in the state.
Yeah, who did Aquinas cleaned out? Who's your high school?
Lakeside.
Aquinas gave you guys the business?
By about 50.
Well,
yeah, when I was a freshman.
Who else? Was there anybody else on Bronson Koenig's Aquinas team that we would know?
No.
Well,
it was just him, and he just hit like 12 threes. It was fine. We were cheering for about 2 minutes of the game before it was a complete blowout. So,
well, look at it this way, Darnell. Kobe King gave my high school. I didn't play basketball, but Kobe King gave my high school basketball team the business, and he couldn't even hack it as a college athlete for more than a year and a half in Madison. So at least your guy, the guy who killed your high school, at least he gave us something at the college level.
That's fair.
Anything else? Anything biblical before I let you go? I liked your call on Ebo show this morning.
No. I do. I actually. That was really weird end of the phone call, but yeah, I do actually listen to that because I think it's important to me. But yeah,
I'm not making
that might ruffle some feathers occasionally.
No,
that.
Darnell, I'll let you go. I appreciate it. I think your biblical calls are some of your best calls when you call in with an observation about one thing or another. You were talking about the end of the Old Testament and how they called stuff, that then came to pass. And that's how that guy, I don't remember which Twin Cities, preps reporter it was who has that tweet from 2013. It was like, yeah, Paige Becker's best fourth grader I've ever seen. Remember the name. It's like, Jesus, man. Holy cow. What a call. And I still see it pop up on my timeline from time to time. Couple of texts, 608-321-1670, and I'll continue to take your phone calls. Bobby in Menominee says, we won 21-14 against the Bears in the NFC Championship game because Raji got his pick six and Rodgers saved a 100-yard pick six from Urlacher. Rodgers played like booty, so who knows if he would win with Cutler the whole game. I think we beat the Eagles last year if we got to play Tanner McKee. Maybe. I think it's revisionist history to say that Rodgers played poorly in that game. That game was a black and blue knockdown drag out. I'm surprised that Rodgers made it through the end of that game. I can't remember if it was Peppers or Lance Briggs put the top of their helmet on his chin. And also, that game started out, I can't remember if the Packers led 10-0 or if they were about to lead 14-0. And then Donald Driver has that pass bounce off his toes going the other way, just like a bad beat interception. That game early was trending. I think the Bears might have been lucky in that game for Jay Cutler to go out the way that it was trending. And when you say, well, the Packers only won because of that pick six, you're telling me that had Jay Cutler stayed in, there would have been no interceptions? Maybe not that one, but dude, that's all Jay Cutler did was throw interceptions. So to your earlier point about the Packers, winning a Super Bowl because of injured quarterbacks, or they need to injure quarterbacks in their playoff run, speed them up, bang them up, knock them around, rawhide, sure. I don't think they need to injure guys, but getting to a quarterback and making them antsy and making them feel you, yeah, that's part of it for sure, 100%. And with Micah Parsons in this defense, they have a better shot to do exactly that. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Chad, Sun Prairie.
Hey, Chad. I like how you've come back to the show a little bit over the last few weeks. We had missed you for a while, and now you're kind of back in the swing of things.
I'm always listening. It's just, some days I feel like talking. Some days I feel like listening.
I feel that.
But yeah, you just reminded me of a point in my life where if I were a Bears fan, it would just be brutal. That was linebacker, heaven for a bit.
Yeah.
Urlacher, Lance Briggs, and Julius Peppers. I know Peppers was a defensive end, but I mean, come on.
Yeah.
They could get after it.
Do you think Brian Urlacher thinks about being tackled by Aaron Rodgers in the open field every day of his life? Because if I were him, I would.
It probably haunts him. He's done you've probably seen the interview where he's got hair in it for the first post-game interview.
Yeah.
Or not post-game, post-playing interview. It was right after he got his new hair. And he's talking about how when Rodgers used to, they knew the pirate calls and the dummy calls, and Rodgers would call him out on it.
Yeah.
And he talks about how it was just this awful rivalry playing Rodgers every time because it was a cat and mouse game. And yeah, he probably has, just it's almost like Bill Parcells probably has nightmares of Brett Favre throwing a second play 84-yard bomb to Andre Rison.
Probably.
That sets a tone in the Super Bowl a little bit different. So
yeah,
there's guys that probably have some nightmares.
I think that Brian Urlacher play remains one of the craziest things. And I love how we're just talking about 2010 because we're talking about the Packers, needing to get up to snuff and executing and doing the detailed things in the most important moments. And I guess 2010 is the last evidence we have of that because they couldn't do it against the Bucs in 21. They couldn't do it against the Seahawks in 24. I mean, just catch an onside kick. For the love of Pete, just catch an onside kick. But it seems to be a theme with the Packers throughout the last, 15 years. We got time for one more call here, and then we'll take a break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Ridge Runner Mark, how are we doing?
Hey, Ridge Runner. You're a little early. You get off work a little bit earlier today?
I did. Yeah, just a smidge early. Things happened, and then I'm like, oh, I gotta go.
That a boy.
So I left.
All right, well, what's up?
So talking about the Packers and the knife's edge of 2010, we need to remember in 2010 they were a wild card. Were they 10-6?
I believe so. Yeah.
They weren't world beaters, and people are talking about they went through bad quarterbacks or injuries or that. Football more so than any other sport. So much luck is involved. Think about the Dallas game. The blocked field goal, from what I read of an article, there was the 13th lineman was in place because of an injury. He's not even on the team anymore. All he had to do was put an arm out to stop. He was basically supposed to stop two guys by putting his arm out to stop the guy that came free in the middle. So if he puts his arm out, one little thing could have changed that game. And it's riddled throughout every example you make. one little thing that could change. And that happens to every team. And we just have hyper-focused on it always happens to us. Well, it happens to the other 31 teams as well, and one team just happens to make it all the way to the Super Bowl, and then their luck is on their side.
Well,
more so than any other sport.
Yeah.
You feel like there's just a bounce of the ball or a little bit of luck. And we're early in the season. Packers might not win the division. They might end up being a wild card again, but they might get hot like they did in 23, and they might have earned enough maturity by the end of this season to take advantage of those little lucky breaks. LaFleur might get hot and make some really good calls, and Love might just make that next step, and that next step could be a Super Bowl.
No, I think they're close. That's a good call, Ridge Runner Mark. You made some points that I want to discuss on the other side. They're not leaps and bounds away from being that team. They're just a couple little detail-oriented things over the course of a game. And is this the Jordan Love cut? Let me see. I got two of them here. I think this is the one.
I still think there's just little small details on a handful of plays, and we'll go back and watch it on film. But there's just those small details where, in the grand scheme of a game, those are things that it comes down to. Those things that can win you a game or lose you a game. And I think there's just a lot of stuff that we still got to clean up. And there's still obviously, pre-snap penalties, things like that, which we got to clean up the operation. But there's just little details on a handful of plays where we just got to lock in and focus on.
That's all it is. That's not leaps and bounds. It's just little things here and there. Your point of luck, teams getting lucky. I want to talk more about that on the other side, especially as it pertains to the Packers in 2010 or other teams that have won Super Bowls recently. So we'll do that in a couple minutes. Remember, Thorson and Heilprin getting set to go at Monk's in Sun Prairie coming up at 6 o'clock. So to our zone listeners here in Madison, make sure you get over there, hang out, get some drinks, get some food, enjoy the show, watch some Thursday Night Football, watch some baseball. You'll probably be watching the end of Cubs Padres, which will be fun to watch as well. But still 40 minutes of the show left. So I want to talk more about that idea of luck on the other side and more of your phone calls as well.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I still think there's just little small details on a handful of plays, and we'll go back and watch it on film, but there's just those small details where, in the grand scheme of a game, those are the things that it comes down to, those things that can win you a game or lose you a game. And I think there's just a lot of stuff that we still got to clean up, and there's still obviously, pre-snap penalties, things like that, which we got to clean up the operation, but there's just little details on a handful of plays where we just got to lock in and focus on.
That's Jordan Love one more time. He said little details 3 times, and I believe he said clean up 2 times. So as we evaluate the Packers and we try to figure out how did they go from 2-0 looking like a world beater to 2-1-1 with the loss and the tie coming in 2 games where they were touchdown or greater favorites. Like, how did that happen? We're picking through this, right? And we're picking through and trying to, establish or identify how good this team could be and what their ceiling could be this year. I think the talent is there. I think that's a very apt observation and description from Jordan Love. It's just those little details. And that was the case last year, too. But I thought with an improved roster and another year of experience for guys like Jordan Love, but also Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Devontae Wyatt, probably to a lesser degree, but Edgerrin Cooper, certainly Evan Williams, Javon Bullard, guys going from year 1 to year 2. Right? I thought some of that would kind of take care of itself. And at least the last 2 weeks, it really hasn't. And we're not even talking about special teams. Goodness. But Ridge Runner Mark called before that last break, and you can call as well. We got wide open phone lines. If you have anything you want to say about either the Packers or the Brewers, I'll take your call. I won't make you wait. 608-321-1670. Ridge Runner Mark basically said, look, any team that wins a championship need to enjoy a good amount of luck. Something that Bill always says, to win a title, you got to be good, you got to be healthy, you got to be lucky, you got to be hot. Agree across the board with all of that. And if you're good enough, you don't have to be as healthy. Or if you're really healthy, maybe you don't have to be as lucky, right? You need a certain quotient of all of those factors to get you over the top. I think a theme throughout many Super Bowl champions, this applies to the Packers in 2010. This applies to the Eagles last year, certainly. Really good example. The Bucks, the Buccaneers, that is, in 2021, are the Super Bowl champions that most come to mind. And with the Buccaneers and with the Eagles last year, they won in the Super Bowl by way of blowout. I think it's very easy to watch a team win a Super Bowl. Specifically, the Packers are a good example. The Buccaneers are a good example. The Eagles last year are a good example. You could go back through the years and find others, but those are the 3 that make my argument the best here. It's very easy to watch a team win a Super Bowl and then look back and say, oh, well, how did, we should have seen it all the way through. Like with the Packers, yeah, they were 10-6, but they dealt with injuries. And good Lord, look at Clay Matthews in his prime, B.J. Raji and Ryan Pickett in their prime, and Cullen Jenkins in his prime, and, a secondary, Tramon Williams played out of his gourd, and Sam Shields in his prime, a player like Nick Collins in his prime. Like, how didn't we see it come? Of course they were the best team all along, and Aaron Rodgers playing the quarterback, position at a higher level than I've really honestly seen anyone do it. For the most part in my lifetime that year. He was absolutely out of his gourd. And it's easy to look back and say, well, of course, they were the best team all along. But the thing is, if they lose a 1-possession game to Chicago, or they lose to the Eagles in the wild card round, and the Eagles had the ball with a chance to either tie or win at the end, and that's when Tramon Williams got that interception, we never are allowed to draw that conclusion. Or with the Buccaneers were so overwhelmingly good in 2021 with Evans and Godwin and everything that Brady brought. That O-line with, I believe that was Tristan Wirf's rookie year, their right tackle out of Iowa. And of course, that defense that had playmakers at every level, and they just, hit like a cement truck at every position, basically. Of course, the Bucs win. And then we look back and think, well, how did we see this coming a million miles away? They were clearly the best, most talented team all along. Well, if Devontae Adams doesn't drop the ball in the end zone at Lambeau, we're never allowed to make that distinction. We're never allowed to get there. And with the Eagles last year, they were about as dominant throughout the course of the postseason as you could get. The Rams gave them a good battle. And I'd argue if it hadn't started raining or snowing or whatever happened in that game, and Matthew Stafford was allowed and able to air it out in a way that an elite quarterback can't really do in those conditions, the Rams might have beaten them. And then we're never able to get to the Super Bowl where we think, oh, well, of course, the Eagles are inevitable. Look at them. They've been that team the whole time. It's very interesting how playoff runs work. And sometimes the Super Bowl, comes down to the wire, or a game comes down to the wire, and it's not clear and obvious who the absolute best team is. A couple of years ago, in what would that have been, 2022, maybe the spring of 23, where it was Eagles-Chiefs in the Super Bowl. 22-23. Yeah, not 23-20. You know what I'm talking about. 21-22, 22-23, whatever year it was. When the Eagles and the Chiefs battled to the wire in the Super Bowl, we didn't come away from that game thinking that team was obviously the best. That team was clearly the best. Some years you do, but even in those runs, there's typically at least one game in the playoffs where the game was in question and that overwhelmingly obvious best team could have gone down, and we're never allowed, or we're never able to make that distinction at the very end when that team ultimately wins the championship. I just think in terms of, again, Jordan Love's comment about the little things, blah, 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 the little things.
I still think there's just little small details on a handful of plays, and we'll go back and watch it on film, but there's just those small details where, in the grand scheme of a game, those are things that it comes down to, those things that can win you a game or lose you a game. And I think there's just a lot of stuff that we still got to clean up, and there's still obviously, pre-snap penalties, things like that, which we got to clean up the operation. But there's just little details on a handful of plays where we just got to lock in and focus on.
So those are the plays that decide the one or two playoff games over the course of a run. And I think I said this maybe on Tuesday. When a team goes on a championship run, there's oftentimes a game or two in that run, if they're a Super Bowl champion team, where they knock the opponent out by, knockout in the first or second round, where it's a blowout. And it doesn't come down to the wire. And the Packers had one of those in 2010. They blew the doors off of the Atlanta Falcons. The Eagles game required execution at the highest level, although I don't even know that they did. James Jones dropped that ball. It should have been a touchdown, and that was far from a perfect game. The Bears game was ugly, but it was outside in the cold, and it was just kind of a black and blue game. But then execution at a high level against the Steelers as well. It's just really hard to overwhelm and front run your entire way to a Super Bowl. At some point over the course of a run, you're going to have to out-execute your opponent. And the question right now with the Packers is exactly that. Those couple little things over the course of a game that get you beat. Those things got him beat against San Francisco in both 21 and 23. The things that really didn't even put him in the game against Philly last year in the postseason. We'll take one call and then we'll take a break here. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is Louie in Eau Claire.
Hey, what's going on, Louie?
Hey, Grant. I know you're talking about Packers there. We're talking kind of like you're talking about the Brewers a little earlier.
Yeah, you're good. Talk Brewers.
And that's what I want to talk about. For being the best record in baseball and number one seed, I'm not sensing a ton of excitement about the Brewers' potential coming into the postseason. Are you?
It's interesting. I think it depends on who you ask. The people that I talk to about the Brewers mostly just have existential dread. You know what I mean? But don't ask me and the people that I watch games with, because we're mostly cynics and miserable people. I think overall there's a good deal of excitement. I think this William Contreras story that came out today probably adds to that. And then once we get to Saturday and it's game day, I think that excitement will be there. It's tough when your team is on bye for a week. It's almost like we just set them to the side and forget they exist.
Yeah, and I'm kind of one of those kind of doom and gloom fans a little bit too, where you're always, when things are going well, it's like, when are things going to start turning bad?
Yeah.
When things are bad, it's never going to get good again.
Correct.
But a couple things, it kind of feels like this team, despite having the best record, really isn't any different, it feels like to me, than the previous 3 or 4 teams that couldn't really do much in the postseason either. And postseason baseball is just a different game in some respects than regular season baseball when your best pitchers are going, maybe 2 innings or getting stretched out a little bit. So that's one thing. It also kind of feels like to me that this is like a 500 team that just got hot for 3 separate streaks throughout the year. And now with the Miz not being dependable at all and Woodruff's injury, it's great that they won 97 games. I'm not discounting them. I think Pat Murphy's a great manager. They've been fun to watch all year long.
just doesn't, to me, it feels like they could probably get by the Cubs or if the Padres come back here. But having a slugfest with the Phillies or Dodgers with, I would say, kind of a lack of big power arms as opposed to the Burns and Woodruff when he was healthy, and Haders and Knables and Jeffersons and guys like that in the past. I mean, Jared Koenig, bless his soul, him against the 8th inning and against the Phillies or Padres, he's been pitching great. I don't know. It feels kind of sketchy to me.
No, I feel you. I think that's my biggest concern with the Brewers, Louie, and I'm going to let you go. I appreciate it because I got to get to break. McGill, I don't expect to be the same version of himself. I hope he is. Mizorowski's not the same version of himself. And Woodruff's almost assuredly not going to be available. Those are 3 pretty big and pretty important pieces, a month or 2 ago when we're trying to figure out, okay, how can this team be different? How can this team win in the playoffs when previous teams haven't? Well, those guys were 3 pretty big pieces of it, And I still like Uribe, and I like Koenig enough. I love Aaron Ashby. But if McGill's throwing 96 instead of 101, like that's a significant development. You know what I mean? That's a big deal. So I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you. I understand. We're looking for reasons to maybe believe in this team in a way that previous teams kind of let us down. I talk about that on tomorrow's show. You hear my conversation with J.R. Radcliffe, the Journal Sentinel. You'll also hear my conversation with Ryan Wood. He joins us every Friday, courtesy of La Crosse Beer House, corner of 3rd and Pearl. And what a place that was to be during Fest. Holy smokes. So you hear that tomorrow. I have a rehearsal dinner at 5. So I'm going to produce for Bill tomorrow, get some things done, get the show lined up to run. You'll hear Ryan Wood. You'll hear J.R. Radcliffe. And then I'll be out of here. I got to stop and pick up a tux on the way. And it's the whole ordeal tomorrow. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I'm not stressed. I'm fine with it. Let's take a break. We'll come back in 5 minutes. More of your calls, and we inch ever closer to the main event of tonight, which is, of course, Ebo and Zach Thorson and Heilprin getting set to start at Monk's in Sun Prairie. So get over their food and drink specials. You can watch the end of this baseball game, too. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. Last couple segments here. Wide open phone lines if you want to join. I won't make you wait at all. 608-321-1670. Thorson and Heilprin coming up live from Monks and Sun Prairie at 6 o'clock. They'll get you ready for Thursday Night Football. You watch the conclusion of Padres, Cubs. The Cubs lead 2-0 in the bottom of the fifth right now. I actually have a baseball thing that I want to discuss that I was not thinking about coming into the show today. But I got a text from a friend, let's just say, who said, I don't think the national media is ready for this Council to Milwaukee storyline. And I thought about that for about 15 seconds, and then I'm like, I'm already mad at how this is going to go. So the game's on TBS, right? I don't know who the booth will be, and I don't know who the dugout reporter will be. But I'm trying to imagine, and I'm trying to anticipate maybe what some of the talking points and what some of the storylines are going to be. Here's what's frustrating to me and has been from the beginning about Council Milwaukee, Council Chicago. When this story first happened, it was a massive deal for us. And I think a massive deal in Chicago, too, for the Cubs fans and Cubs media, obviously. And I remember when it happened, I'm producing for Bill, and we had, Rosiak or Kurt or McCalley. I don't know. We had Brewers people on to talk about it. And I remember that week reaching out to anybody and everybody who I considered to be a national baseball writer, whether that be Heyman or Morosi, a couple guys at The Athletic whose names are all escaping me, not Eno Saris, but the other one, all those people. And I couldn't get anybody. And baseball writers are different from football writers in that they have their craft and it's very sacred. And football writers like, yeah, do you have a podcast? I don't care. Yeah, sure. Whatever you want to talk about. I love talking football. Come on. Baseball people aren't normally like that. But I was so frustrated at the time. So frustrating. Because I just couldn't believe that nobody wanted to do 10 minutes on Milwaukee radio talking about this absolutely insane story. Like, I'm not crazy for thinking that this is one of the craziest stories in sports. You know what I mean? Craig Counsell, whose parents worked for the Brewers, He lived in Milwaukee, grew up in Milwaukee, was a little kid. There's pictures of it with players on the field. Like that thing. Plays for the Brewers later on, works in their front office as a special advisor, takes over the manager role, and becomes the team's most winning manager of all time. That guy then has his contract, like the Brewers let him play out his contract. In the middle of the night, he goes to the Cubs without ever giving the Brewers a chance to counter. It's not like he's like, hey, the Cubs are willing to pay me this. Can you guys? And the Brewers are like, no, F you, go to the Cubs. That's not what happened. He disappeared, and then all of a sudden we learned that he had become the Cubs manager. That story is insane. And I didn't realize when it happened, or I didn't understand when it happened, why that wasn't clocking with anyone. It was clocking in Milwaukee. It was clocking in Chicago. But I don't understand how I hate the term national media, but I don't understand for the life of me how nobody in the national media was like, this is insane. Why was no one reacting strongly? And now here we are 2 years later, I guess, a little bit less than 2 years later. Council's team is now eyeing, they're up 2-0 in the fifth, a date with the Milwaukee Brewers in the playoffs in which Craig Counsell will return to Milwaukee managing the Cubs. And I'm already angry because I know how Saturday is going to go. I don't know who the sideline reporter for or the dugout reporter is for TBS, but whatever, fill in the blank. Well, Craig, the fans, they're angry because you're with the rival now, but they understand the contract and they'll get over it, right? Laugh, chuckle, like, no, dude, believe me when I tell you, half the Milwaukee residents would throw that dude in front of a bus right now without a second thought. Like, no, that's not at all the dynamic. So I had a friend text me about this. I'm like, I wasn't even thinking about this. And I went from not even considering this to now I'm furious about it. And it hasn't even happened yet. But then again, this is what happens. And we actually do see that, people complain about the national media, like this summer when Cowherd was banging the drum about how the Vikings didn't really believe in JJ McCarthy. And, they don't really trust him. And all the Vikings players are like, Colin, I'm begging you, have a Vikings person on, go to a Vikings practice. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's kind of just let Colin do his thing. It's the offseason. JJ McCarthy hasn't played yet. That's how it works. Okay. It's how it worked for Jordan Love. It's how it's worked for lots of quarterbacks. It's just how it works. I don't complain about the national media in that way. But here is one point of reference in which a lack of coverage to a team like Milwaukee actually then spirals and snowballs into something worse down the road. Like, I am telling you that if Brewers fans were allowed to jump across the net and punch Craig Counsell in the eye, they would do it. And I know that it's going to be grossly misrepresented. And Tyler and Mass, so here it is. Brian Anderson and Ron Darling will probably do Dodgers-Phillies. Brewers series will probably get Don Orsillo and Jeff Francoeur. Okay, whoever it is. I almost hope it's not BA. I don't want BA doing this. Matthew says he went to the Cubs. Get over it. Get over the inside of my ass, Matthew. Shit, up yours. I hope it's not Brian Anderson because Brian Anderson has known Craig Counsell forever. And the people in that little bubble, they can't connect. They don't understand. Well, it's just a job. Why would anyone be bent out of shape? I don't want someone with that point of view. I would rather have Orsillo or Francoeur or whoever. I'd way rather have Levering. Levering gets it. I don't want BA. I don't want BA doing this. That would honestly make it worse. You think that would make it better? It would make it worse. Like it would make it worse. I remember when Craig came back his first game. It was Memorial Day weekend a couple years ago, 2 summers ago, last summer. And BA on the call was like, one day they'll get over it, but that day is not today. I'm like, no, I don't think one day they will. I don't think so. And I know they got over Favre. Favre won a title. Favre resurrected a franchise. Craig Counsell lost in an NLCS once upon a time at home in Game 7 with a lead. No, I don't think people are going to get over it. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
It's Brenda.
Hi, Brenda. How are you?
I'm good. I wouldn't go as far to push him in front of a bus, but I'd kick him in the nards.
There you go. Okay, push him in front of a proverbial bus. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would rather just kick him in the nards. But
Same.
although I may have to do the punch in the jaw or the face because I don't know that he has nards. So
There you go, Brenda.
And I try to be PC about it. Hopefully that was PC enough. But yeah, so I'm torn because I'd prefer to play San Diego, but I'd like to beat the Cubs. So I'm torn. I'm torn as to who I want to play.
Well, look, if you could tell me the result right now, then I would pick accordingly. Like if you're telling me the Brewers are going to beat the Cubs, then sure, bring on the Cubs. But I would.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd like to beat the Cubs.
I
rub it into the face.
Yeah.
But that being said, then we have to beat the Cubs. So that's the way I'd prefer to play San Diego.
That would require a playoff series win. Brenda, I got to run because I got to get to a break. Sorry. Thank you. It was nice to hear from you. And I agree with you on Council on the Nards thing. Matthew says, I have a very good friend who's a Cubs fan who doesn't like Craig Counsell because he came from the Brewers. Yeah. I mean, Dave from Monona doesn't because he came from the Brewers. I don't know. It's just hack behavior to the point where Contreras, even in his Players Tribune articles, talking about, well, he got that nice contract. That's parody. I can't believe you wrote that in there. Who cares? All right, we'll take one final 3-minute break. We'll come back and maybe chat a little bit with Zach and Ebo, who are standing by at Monk's in Sun Prairie for Thorson and Heilprin. And we'll get back to that and wrap up the show next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
All right, final segment of the Wisco Sports Show. We hadn't talked to Craig Counsell on the show in so long. And it's because a buddy texted me about it. I have a wedding on Saturday, so I'm going to miss a lot of the broadcast anyways. I'm going to have to catch up it on Sunday, which is probably good. It's probably for the best. I just know that the national media, which I say in a certain voice because I don't like using that phrase, but sometimes I have to, is going to misrepresent the dynamic of Council coming home, and it's going to make me mad. And then I'm just going to be mad. Like I am most of the time, to be fair. I believe Ebo and Zach are standing by at Monks in Sun Prairie, Thorson and Heilprin, ready to fire up here in a bit. Ebo, Zach, hello? Was that a burp?
Hello, Grant Bills.
It
was. The beer here is delicious.
Well,
sorry, I didn't know my mic was turned up and on. Excuse me. Where are my manners?
I feel like you probably did, but that's not the point. How are you guys doing? Hello, Zach.
Zach is right now sipping a beer, actually. So
well, I'm glad.
I'm doing well.
I was sipping the beer because our table is a little wobbly and it's continually getting hit, so the beer was flowing, so I had to take some big sips.
Well, that's
Zach
a good
is a little perturbed with me already tonight.
No, not perturbed. Not perturbed. He's rooting for the Cubs here, which is
Fly the W.
Which is fine, but it's not because he actually wants the Cubs. He wants his show to have something good to talk about.
Fly the W.
Especially this weekend because there's no Packers game to talk about, so you have something to talk about on Monday and Tuesday and all that good stuff.
Let's go, Craig.
So it's really about let's go OTL, let's go like that type of stuff more so than
so
let's go Cubs.
let me get this clear. Beat writers, the media begins with me. You know, where's my spot in the press box? What are they serving for a meal? But the second that somebody like me or Ebo might be rooting for a certain story or a bit of content, then it's beyond the pale. Is that what I'm hearing, Zach? I'm not sure I agree. That's not fair.
Grant gets it. Grant understands.
He's not rooting for the Cubs, though. He's rooting for his show. So, just root for the show. I don't really care that you root for the show.
You can't spell Go Cubs Go you can't spell Go Cubs Go without OTL over the line.
Hey, Grant.
Yes.
Did you get your cupcake, you little baby?
Oh, yeah, I saw. That was funny, wasn't it?
This is ridiculous.
You are the biggest baby. Did you send a thank you to everybody for Lindsay?
No, Lindsay did stop by. Lindsay did that for her. She did that for her. She wanted to be funny on the company-wide email.
Well, I wanted to be funnier and send the tweet that you sent that said, "Goddamn right, you saved one for me." I wanted to say, "Here's Grant saying thank you."
Yeah, it's about time. It's about time I got a little consideration around this building. I don't feel bad at all. I should have been given a 6-pack of cupcakes. Those should be my cupcakes by right. If there's free food in the building,
what reason?
I'll say.
What'd you do for him?
Free food for who? For what?
What'd you do for him? Like, why do you deserve them more than anybody else?
I am here until 6 p.m. at least every day. So what?
We're here till 7 at Monks and Sun Prairie.
There's food at Monks. You're making my point. There's no food here. I packed my lunch.
You're begging for free food. We pay for our food here.
Not begging. It's mine by right. I shouldn't have to beg for it. So many of these people in this
right
building,
do you have?
they leave, they go to business lunches, they expense those business lunches. You guys, you leave earlier in the day. Now, Ebo, to be fair, you are here much earlier than me, so I'm not going to hold that against you.
I don't see you here at 3:45, 4 in the morning.
Zach comes in for a couple of hours, sit in his office, then he goes, I don't have access to food. If there's free food, it should be mine. I will not back down off
I didn't know we were on trial today.
You literally can get up like every 4 minutes to go and get food, Grant.
Yeah, you can play a press conference for 10, 15.
We know you do that. We know you do that. Stop acting like you have to.
Especially from
like you're
10
tied
to 2.
Stop acting like you're tied to the table.
I literally am tied. I quite literally am tied to the table. The commercial breaks are 3 minutes. Where am I supposed to go in 3 minutes? Am I supposed to sprint to Quick Trip?
The bottom of the hour is 5 minutes.
You can literally get to the cupcakes. You can get to the cupcakes within 4 minutes, Grant.
Yeah,
Grant, I am Zach's gun blazing tonight. Should be a really interesting show.
And also like
I'm pro Grant, like I'm pro Cubs.
I have a headache.
What are you doing?
I'm rubbing my temples because I have a headache. When there's free food in this building,
sounds like you need something else around. You know what I'm saying?
It should. Well, that's true too. It should be mine. It should be mine. So the fact is, save one for Grant. I should be the first person who's offered free food in this building. And if I come across as entitled, good. It's about time. I am entitled to certain things. That's not just my generation. That's my job. That's my schedule here. That's the way it should work.
A lot of pent-up aggression.
It is, right?
I know.
Just a little.
I just don't understand it.
What are you guys going to talk about tonight? Other than this, of course.
Well, obviously we're going to kill you on this one for sure, but what are we going to talk about?
I don't know. Pro Cub. Go Cubs go, baby. Let's go. Fly the W.
I won't be talking very much.
No, we're going to talk about how we're just going to lambaste Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur, then make little snippets of it and put it online for all to overreact to.
That is...
And then Grant will get all upset about it.
And I'm going to be a Cubs fan and Zach will be a Bears fan, and we'll talk about how Jordan Love isn't elite.
The absolute tears coming from Grant's studio this week have been amazing.
Any other ways you
Grant,
guys want to
what was I gonna say?
misrepresent me for 30 seconds before the show is done? Go ahead.
I love you. You're very handsome. You're looking yoked, hitting the gym, and I heard you're packing. So good job, Grant.
You heard I'm
I think
back.
that's all misrepresentations, right? A lot of good things happen.
Screw you. Enjoy the show tonight. It was nice to chat, gentlemen.
I love you. See you, Grant.
I love you both. Zach's pissed off again. What's new? Yeah, when there's free food in the building, I should get a cut. It's the way that it's a matter of resource allocation. Got a bunch of business people in this building. They leave at noon to go to their business lunch. Where's my business lunch? It's free food in the break room. Enjoy Thorsten and Halpern. Talk to you tomorrow at 4.